from Langston Hughes, The Big C, that we also read at the beginning of the semester. And this is an essay by Richard Wright. I mentioned both of these things in the class recording for this week, and I will make a quick link to that as well if, as always, you need a little help getting to sleep. And I also added new discussions pertaining usually to the YouTube videos that I made using archival sources that give more context to Their Eyes Are Watching God. So let me show you the Big C excerpt quickly, because I don't think I covered all of these points. Oh, great, and I can't seem to rotate it either. I'll have to fix that. Sorry. One of the first things, by the way, I wanted to show you, Hughes calls his chapter, or his section of the Big C, the Black Renaissance, and in this chapter, he has the title When the Negro Was in Vogue. And that's part of his very nonchalant and even maybe slyly condescending attitude toward the hype about Harlem at the time, condescending toward whites who hype Harlem because it results in things like the Cotton Club, the most famous club of the era, being a segregated place, and the reality of Black people saying, you know, we can't go downtown and sit in white clubs. So why are you going to sit here and look at us? And then he makes this great comment about, but people never say it out loud. For Black people are practically never rude to white people. And I just thought that was an interesting moment. He talks about dancers at the Savoy, and if you've ever seen the film Malcolm X, you'll know what Lindy hopping is, about how they do more acrobatic moves and start throwing in moves just to entertain the white tourists in Harlem. And then he talks about how popular Broadway plays by or about African Americans are, and how Black writers are being published more. However, white writers who write about Black characters still make more money for their books. And so there's a lot of irony in this section, and I think Hughes is probably very justified in being ironic and sardonic. He talks about the house parties that people have to raise money, and then he has his section about the literati and begins talking about the writers of the Harlem Renaissance, including Hurston, who helped him found a small magazine, or a little magazine called Fire, in 1926. Fire was a little bit more radical and pushed more boundaries than The Crisis or other publications, and it went bankrupt, and most of it actually burned, as he tells us. One of the editors, Wallace Thurman, wanted it to be on really nice paper because they included drawings by Aaron Douglas, and we'll get to him as well because I think the visual artists are also important. Then he mentions how none of the Black intellectuals would have anything to do with Fire because they included a story by Bruce Nugent, which he calls a green and purple story in the tradition of Oscar Wilde. And basically it was a homoerotic story, and Hughes is being as blunt as he can possibly about homosexual content in this story. So here we have another example of pushing those sexual boundaries. He talks about Thurman's term niggerati, defines it right here, and essentially accuses Hurston of being part of that literati of Harlem that was trying to make money and maybe run a hustle to please white people, mentioning that Hurston was the secretary for Fannie Hurst, who wrote Imitation of Life, one of the white people in this case that made a lot of money writing about Black people. He talks about Carl Van Vechten's novel and other parts of the chapter as well, and he actually gives Van Vechten credit for pointing out the real injustices and the continued exploitation of Black artists during the so-called Renaissance. So this is an interesting document, but if you don't have a chance to read it, I hope I've covered the most important points for you. and now I have to figure out how to maybe get it to face the right way. So I think that's all of the important material for right now, other than the fact that I have keyed discussions, the discussions going forward to, I'm sorry, my kitten is once again sitting on my lap and trying to type on the computer, and I can't see it. Kitten is very interested in this class. So, one moment, please. Goodness gracious, I can't even see. So I'm just going to let you go, okay? Have a great weekend and let me know what questions you have.